Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Tuesday, the 3rd of July, comes to you from London. And we start by looking at the dollar, just holding flat at the moment. Increased a bit yesterday, just couldn't get back above the cloud. So we are still just short term under the cloud, but we still do have these upside targets building all the time. So it does look like the dollar will go higher. Euro, of course, was looking weaker yesterday. Bit of recovery on the cloud there, and the market taking political turmoil receding in Germany as a positive for the euro, but still medium and long term looking less good than the dollar. Japanese yen, we see the dollar is increasing here, so that's a good telltale that the dollar will go higher. And against sterling, we're seeing sterling actually looking a little bit better, but on the short-term chart, and trying to just recover. But the medium and long-term chart still looking dire for sterling against the dollar. Against the euro, we see sterling going lower with multiple targets to the downside. Against the Swiss franc, we see also sterling downside with targets, and against the Australian dollar falling back quite sharply this morning. That's Aussie dollar strength. And the long-term chart here is looking better for sterling, but short and medium term is deteriorating. Bitcoin actually jumped yesterday, so we've seen a little bit of an improvement there. We've got a new upside target of potentially 11%, not yet activated, but we still need to get through on that medium-term chart to have any feeling that Bitcoin could rally. Looking at the US market, it actually opened down yesterday, but recovered a little bit. S&P is still looking pretty bearish. The Nasdaq actually came back at the end of the session as well. So we did see a little bit of an improvement there overall towards the end of the day, but still indices are bearish below the cloud. Dow having crossed back below in the medium term is looking bearish as well. And the Russell broader based index also was fairly flat yesterday. The futures this morning, little change, so a bit hard to say which way the markets will open, up slightly. And the UK market not yet open, but had a pretty tough day yesterday, down 1%, and still looking pretty bearish on the short-term chart. As is UK mid-caps, also pulling back yesterday, just 2/3%, and looking bearish as well. The German market looking a little bit better this morning, but yesterday was really a sell-off there, and ultimately we are just seeing this medium-term chart coming out of pressure, and the long-term chart price is moving below the cloud as well, and the same with the French market, actually not looking as bad, but still bearish below the cloud on the short term. Japanese market had a very bad day the day before yesterday. Overnight, we did see an improvement. So we did see an improvement overnight, but it was still down, and that big fall the day before of about 2% is hanging over us, and that medium-term chart is worrying for Japan. Same with Hang Seng, it was down about 1%, and China, which has been the real worry, was down only slightly by comparison, but it is deteriorating quite strongly here. So the Chinese market's still the big worry. The Indian market up slightly, so backing the trend a little bit there, and the Australian market also up, so backing the trend there as well. Brent crude looking strong still. Price is just falling back a little bit below the cloud, but we're sitting at that $77 level, 77.90, looking pretty strong. Same with WTI, looking strong, up 1% this morning, and US nat gas sitting at about $2.86 and staying there. Gold has fallen further, and yesterday we saw a move to 1240 on gold, so we are really pulling back quite sharply here. And silver also looking weaker as well, so the silver chart in the medium term looking pretty bearish indeed. US 10-year yield sitting at 2.87%, so that's starting to improve, short-term bullish. And of course the tech stocks are the things that are really going to drive this market forward or down, and we saw Apple down down yesterday, and also Amazon pushing a little bit lower as well. Uh, Still bearish below the cloud on the short term. Alphabet, the same situation here, short term bearish. And Facebook, back at this sort of 192 level, just struggling in the mid 190s. And then last of all, um, the Microsoft chart, also just trying to recover but still looking short term bearish. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.